Did CNBC just have an expert, supposedly an expert, call Bitcoin an open Ponzi scheme? Ladies and gentlemen, this is straight off the press. You're not going to believe this. This is fresh. Bitcoin news today can't get more today. I mean, more real. This is like Bitcoin news now. I mean, really. This just happened a few hours ago. You're not going to believe this. We're going to look at the full interview. But ladies and gentlemen, I've been in cryptocurrency for a long time. Nothing I say in this video should be considered financial advice, but I'm a cryptocurrency enthusiast. I'm a believer in this technology. I believe in the fundamentals of what cryptocurrency can do. Yes, I believe that the channel is called Crypto Wealth because I believe a lot of people can earn a lot of wealth by being in cryptocurrency. That potential is real. That potential is there. It doesn't come without risk, but the risk is mitigated with a little bit of strategies, like basic understanding of how to invest in cryptocurrency. I did an entire video on cryptocurrency investing for beginners. I'll link it above. I'll put it in the description. But if you follow some of the simple techniques in that video, you'll help limit or mitigate some of your risk. However, the single biggest reason to invest in cryptocurrency is because you understand long-term what this technology can do and how incredible this technology is. And the more you invest in this space, the more you understand this space, the more you research the space, you recognize how many so-called experts in mainstream crypto world, in mainstream news, in mainstream financial education sectors literally still don't understand this technology. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here first. We are here early. And most of mainstream media still doesn't get it. And if you agree with me, smash that like button. All right, let's get into this. Let's first look at what happened.
One of the things that people are doing in terms of structuring their portfolio, given the amount of debt that's been taken on, is people have been buying up cryptocurrencies, maybe not in the last week or two, but clearly over the past several months. I have seen you take to Twitter and call this everything from a failed currency to an open Ponzi scheme.
It has characteristics of an open Ponzi. In other words, everybody knows it's a Ponzi. Basically,
it has characteristics of an open Ponzi, meaning everybody knows that it's a Ponzi. Now, just think about that logic for a moment. He used to own Bitcoin. So by that logic, he would be saying, I knew that it was an open Ponzi, and so I invested in it. Do you think for a moment he thought that it was an open Ponzi? Do you think the characteristics of Bitcoin have actually changed before he purchased to after he purchased? See, think about that for a moment. Have the characteristics actually changed of the cryptocurrency? No, Bitcoin has been Bitcoin since it was created for the most part. The way that it works and transacts, the basic fundamentals have literally not changed. But let's keep going. Let that sink in for a moment. And the reason I want you to listen to this is because you got to be careful for what people say. You got to be careful who you listen to, so-called experts. If there's anything I want you to do on this channel, I want you to be able to think objectively and not fall victim to the noise that's out there, because there's always a lot of noise. Somebody has an agenda. So, and that agenda is not always in your best interest. And if you agree with me, if you appreciate the fact that I'm pointing this out, do me a favor and smash that like button.
there's no connection between inflation and Bitcoin. None. Okay. I mean, you can have hyperinflation and Bitcoin going to zero.
But he says there's no connection between hyperinflation. Listen, MicroStrategy's purchased Bitcoin. Tesla's purchased Bitcoin. They did not purchase Bitcoin for an investment. Grayscale has purchased Bitcoin, but Grayscale's buying Bitcoin for an investment. Why did Elon Musk buy Bitcoin? Why? Why did he put a sizable percentage of his company's cash reserves into Bitcoin? Because he needs to secure future business operations with that cash. So therefore, he needs to have something that he feels like may hold its value. Now, he didn't put all the company's cash reserves in Bitcoin. He just put a little bit of it. Basically, over $1 billion. But for him, that was basically just a percentage of his cash reserves for the company. And it's literally for an inflation hedge. That means somebody in real life who absolutely has to, be concerned about inflation and how it's going to affect future company operations, meaning the dollars that his company makes today needs to maintain their value in the future. If you're concerned about inflation, he had to find somewhere to put it. He chose to put it in Bitcoin. Why? Because it can be an inflation hedge. Now, here in the scene says there's zero connection, but we know inflation has ticked up. Official inflation numbers have been relatively the same, but if you go look at some of the unofficial numbers, it's clear that certain pockets of our economy, there's been massive inflation taking place over the past couple of years. Bitcoin price has gone up. How can this gentleman claim that there's zero connection? And that's just two examples of how there indeed might be some connection. And other people in real world situations who are forced to make difficult decisions, like Elon Musk, like Michael Saylor's of MicroStrategy, they've all agreed that, okay, we need to find something. What is that something? And in their case, they chose Bitcoin. Other CEOs may be putting part of it in precious metals or whatever. Maybe they're putting it in blue chip stocks in some cases. These guys chose Bitcoin because they also see it as an inflation hedge. So I would much rather believe the guys in real world that are actually having to deal with this than the overeducated psychobabble of the guys that are literally have made a living writing about, talking about, and investing just in speculative markets.
No link between them. It's a beautifully set up cryptographic system.
Of course it is. Thank you.
It's well made, but there's absolutely no reason it should be linked to anything economic. If you want to hedge against inflation, buy a piece of land, grow, I don't know, olives on it. You'll have olive oil. If the price collapses, you'll have something. But Bitcoin, there's no connection.
Okay, so I actually agree with this, by the way. I actually think owning real estate, particularly cash-generating real estate, is probably one of the single easiest, best inflation hedges that exist, period, in the story. I actually agree with that, but here's the problem with what he's saying. He's saying, don't do that, buy land. Elon Musk can't buy land and use that as an inflation hedge. It doesn't work. Land's not easily transactionable. Land's not nearly as liquid. If he needs to get access to it, you gotta wait and try to sell a piece of property. That doesn't work the same way. So when he says that example, I agree with the example, but that example doesn't apply. Again, in a real world situation, you currently have companies, and I said this 2 years ago. I said on this channel several years ago, hey, companies are going to start buying Bitcoin and or other cryptocurrencies to be able to basically, because they're worried about inflation, to maintain the value of their business operational assets. I actually thought it might be insurance companies first because they have a tremendous amount of float, and I thought some of them may do it, and I think they still may in the future. What's next is going to be countries are going to start doing this at some point. Countries are, mark my words, timestamp, screenshot, write it down, do whatever you need to do. Countries are going to start buying cryptocurrency as an inflation hedge. You heard it here. If you haven't heard it yet, you just heard it first. And simply put, this gentleman's going to be wrong, but let's keep going.
And of course, the best strategy for an investor is to own things that produce yields in the future. In other words, you can fall back on real dollars coming out of the company. Plus,
I 100% agree with that. It's why I like to invest in dividend-based stocks. It's why I'm a real estate investor. It's also why, by the way, if you want to see more content about real estate, more content about dividend investing, let me know down in the comments. I may put up some videos about that. But it's also why I believe in earning passive income in cryptocurrency. Those of you that have followed my channel for a long time, I love cryptocurrency. I love Bitcoin. But if I can earn interest holding it, if I can, do something like my mogul mining method, if I can, right now I'm investing in trading bots. And part of the reason I'm doing that is because the specific method that I'm using sort of creates a passive income while holding cryptocurrency at the exact same time. And if you want to know more about using trading bots to create passive income, let me know down in the comments, because I keep thinking I'm going to do some videos about that in the future as well, if you want me to. Let's keep going.
plus with tail risk hedge. There's no other alternative. And these gimmicks, of course, you have Bitcoin today, you may have another one tomorrow. They come and go, and there's no systematic link between them and the claims they made. I thought that right. Bitcoin.
So here's the thing that's challenging. He's about to go into this right now. It doesn't make any sense. This highly educated, super articulate man is making this case for why Bitcoin is an inflation hedge and why it's not a currency. Now, and he's going to go here and tell us in a minute. Let's go ahead and, in his own words, listen.
And it's going to be a currency in the sense that something you transact with. It proved to be too volatile and it turned into speculative.
Okay, so here's what's amazing about this. Please pay attention to you got to read between the lines. So he's made this whole case on why Bitcoin couldn't be a currency. There was no connection to inflation. He was making that whole case. Then he said himself, I thought Bitcoin was going to be a currency. I thought it was going to be transactionable. He said that. Now, mind you, the very next statement is it proved to be too volatile. Here's the irony. Catch this, ladies and gentlemen. Please pay attention. If you're driving or you're riding around or you're listening to this, pay attention to what I'm about to tell you. He says that it proved to be too volatile. Here's the irony. Bitcoin was far more volatile before he bought it than what it has been recently. Bitcoin has been far less volatile in the past 6 months, the past year, than it was the previous 3-4 years when it was a lot smaller market cap. So that makes zero sense. I mean, why did he buy into it when during its most volatile time? How in the world did he buy in thinking it was going to be a currency? Then it's become less volatile, and yet he's made up his mind. Oh, it's too volatile. It became less volatile while you were probably holding it, and that's when you made up your decision. Do you understand that there's a disconnect here? There is a reason. There's another reason that he doesn't like Bitcoin, because this doesn't make sense. There's something else going on here. We don't know what it is. Maybe he's got another book coming out. Maybe he's being paid by some sort of banking system for something. Maybe he's about to accept a high-paying position somewhere, and it can't be pro-Bitcoin. Who knows? But something's going on here that does not make sense, because his own words tend to contradict his own actions, which he's discussing, contradict himself. Keep in mind, he told you all the reasons why it didn't make sense as a currency, but yet he bought into it thinking it was a currency. He was wrong. It was too volatile. He came to that discovery supposedly after buying into it as a currency, which he said it couldn't be because, it was a bad inflation hedge. He found out he was wrong after buying it, after it was less volatile. See, something doesn't make sense. If you agree with me, smash that like button. Let's keep going.
Tool. It's incompatible with the original aim to replace the dollar. You don't replace a currency with something that's so volatile that you can't really commit to a transaction in it.
Tell that to the people in Venezuela. And my answer here is I'm not even going to go into this. There's a 7-minute video that Naomi Brockwell did that literally answers this better than anything else I've ever seen. She did a video, I think it's 3 or 4 reasons to invest in cryptocurrency. I'm going to link that above. I'm going to put it down in the description. If you don't watch any other video, once you're done with this video, go watch that video. I'll put it on the end screen as well. If you don't do anything else today, watch that video, because in that video, they talk about countries that have to deal with inflation. And the irony is, currently today in modern history, every single country that has had massive inflation, the citizens have went and bought cryptocurrency. Why? Clearly, they see it as an inflation hedge. Clearly, they don't see it as an open Ponzi scheme.
But what about the view that it's an asset, that it's a commodity, it's a digital gold? I ask, by the way, because I've been skeptical virtually the entire time as well. And
hashtag, this guy is clueless.
Yet, I look at the screen, you can look at the screen, and we can both say, at least at the moment, we've been quite wrong.
No, there's a difference between a currency, and a currency commands price stability. That's what the Federal Reserve's mission is. It's not, it's price stability, not an appreciation of the dollar.
Very interesting. Very interesting. He just gives a subtle endorsement of the Federal Reserve. Take note.
And something that rises in price. I was fooled by it initially. I thought it was going to be a currency. Something that moved 5% a day, 20% in a month, up or down, cannot be a currency. So,
wait a minute. That's interesting as well. Did he not watch daily price movements? Because Bitcoin can go up or down as much as 20% in some days. We've seen that. We saw it last year and the year before. When did this guy buy in the Bitcoin? Well, 5 years ago, before it was created? I mean, when he's talking about numbers that actually aren't even, meaning we know it can move, it can be far more volatile than that. Just, you got to look for these inaccuracies. This is how my brain's always working on watching this stuff. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Why would you say it like that? Some of this could be simple misspeak. Some of it could be oversimplification. But that can't be the answer to everything that's a little bit inconsistent.
It's something else. It's like tulips. They can rise. Bitcoin go to a million.
But the question is, let's say it's something else.
It's not like tulips. No one was transacting in freaking tulips, dude. Nobody.
Let's say it's not a currency. And maybe it isn't a currency. But the question is, does it have value. I think you bought into it originally and actually sold out, right?
Yeah, of course. When I realized, I mean, I bought into it thinking, not willing to have capital appreciation so much as wanting to have an alternative to the fiat currency issued by central banks. The currency was
Bam, right there. Okay. So he says, I was looking for an alternative of the central bank. See, this is a bit contradictory. I was looking for an alternative. He understood the technology. He understood that it was volatile before he got into it. He was looking for an alternative, so he got in. But all of a sudden, he found out that it was more volatile in a time period that it had to be less volatile than it was in years past.
Without a government. Then I realized it was not a currency without a government. It was just pure speculation. It's just like a game. Nothing. I mean, nothing else. I mean, you can create another game and call it a currency.
And
Even
you don't think
gold
there's ever, is there ever a point, though, at which it could reach such mass adoption and could actually get to some level of stability that you think it could be used as a currency? As you,
That's important to understand. That's what he's missing here, and I appreciate this guy asking that. It becomes the more people who adopt cryptocurrency, and it's got so far to go for mass adoption. It's got so far to go. Like the growth, the market cap has so far to go that there's no way that it doesn't become more stable. The other reason why cryptocurrency appears to be less stable is because we all are still denominating it into a dollar currency or a fiat currency. If people were just focusing on the price of Bitcoin, it would be more stable. If they were just like, meaning if things were just priced in Bitcoin as opposed to priced in Bitcoin converted to dollars, that alone would make it more stable. But when the question is Bitcoin, how unstable is Bitcoin? Also, how unstable is the buying power of the dollars you keep quoting in? That's an important distinction because arguably, some sources can show that we've had inflation, at least in some pockets of the economy, already as high as 5 and 10%. So that could contribute for some of the price movement in Bitcoin as well.
you see the adoption of the Venmos and PayPals and other wallets and maybe a much more sort of global usage, that dynamic would change? I mean, that's the argument that's made on the currency side of it.
Okay, so the fact that someone accepts Bitcoin as form of payment is very different from treating it as a currency. You have to commit to a fixed price in Bitcoin. So in other words, I have a contract with you. I'm renting your apartment. I'm paying you in Bitcoin, okay, and you take the Bitcoin risk, okay? And I haven't seen transactions. There may be some I'm not aware of where the price is fixed in Bitcoin, not in dollars, translated into Bitcoin. Right. So, and if you want to wire money, they are.
I actually agree with that, but I think that we're on the way there. I mean, we're not there yet. This is way too early. This is why so many of us have a chance to believe that there's a chance to make massive gains long term, because we're in this thing early. I mean, what he's talking about is getting much closer to mass adoption, which I fully believe is going to happen, but that's down the road a good long ways still.
There are more effective ways to do so. And if you want to use a currency, use Apple stock. That's a currency. Okay, you can convert it and pay.
Horrible analogy. You're not going to be transactioning fractional shares of Apple stock. They're not easy to transact in. They're not decentralized. On every level, that was just a bad analogy. It's not cryptographically secured. There's so many things that he just said there. Again, this is a guy who was a formal investor, a previous investor in cryptocurrency. Either he was lying before he made his decision to invest, or he's lying now. Something's not right here in what he's saying, because his arguments against it were still valid arguments prior to him purchasing cryptocurrency. Let's finish this up.
With Apple stock, and probably would be much less volatile than Bitcoin.
Okay, so here's what I have to tell you. Go watch the video. I think it's 4 reasons. I said 7, I think earlier. 4 reasons to invest in cryptocurrency by Naomi Brockwell. It's an incredible video. You should share that video with everyone that you know, because it's incredible. Hey, thank you so much for watching. Do me a favor. If you believe in the future of cryptocurrency, smash that like button. Decentralized currency equals freedom. This is Crypto Wealth. I'm out.